Vitagliano are taking that to another level with AFA at the Arc. October 31st through November 2nd, you'll get to learn from special presentations and a live panel discussion with Wesley and Tony. For all the details, visit afa.net/events today and click AFA at the Arc.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Tim Wildman here with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
And Fred Jackson.
Good morning, Tim.
You fellas, were y'all on Monday through Thursday last week?
Yeah. I was on Monday through Friday.
Through Friday?
Yeah.
Yes.
But, I mean, who was with you? Ray?
Ray was some. Chris, Steve, Chris.
Yeah.
Would,
I was out.
Yes.
The reason I'm asking, just make sure y'all did the show.
We did.
Okay. It would have been bad to have an hour and a half of just silence on here, huh?
Well, that one day now, all of us, we just went to Cracker Barrel.
I wondered,
what's
the old, when the cat's
away, the mice will play.
Yeah.
No, we did the show. We did our due diligence.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's good to be back. A little family vacation to the beach.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mentioned we go down to Destin, Florida, but I mentioned in devotion here this morning that, of course, there's 10 grandchildren we have, and so 3 families plus Allison and me. And sometimes we think we need to take a big, grand educational vacation. You know, we need
take the kids to a museum.
Yeah, we need to go hit a couple museums or go to here or there and discover and see and you know, and then you go like, no,
no, not at the age that your grandkids
yes, maybe later.
Yeah,
those days will come later. But right now, it's just like with Rugrats and stuff. You just say no. For a vacation, we just want to go to the beach and dump them in the sand.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Well, we sit under a tent or something.
Yes, and don't move.
Right.
Just watch them and have fun.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we had a great week down on the Gulf Coast. It's really a beautiful place. I was talking to y'all, Fred, about this morning. From all the way from Orange Beach, Alabama, all the way down to Panama City Beach. And I know there's other places along the Gulf Coast, but that's really the main destination for vacationers in the summer from much of the country. At least I say much of the country. They probably, that area I just described from the Alabama coast to Panama City Beach, I'm guessing they draw from
probably all of the middle of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see a lot of Minnesota tags, Wisconsin tags down there.
Oh, yeah.
And they go like starting in January.
Yeah.
Because
it's cold up north. Yeah.
Destin in January looks a whole lot better than Minnesota in January.
But
or Minnesota in February or March or April.
It's really beautiful, that drive. We're talking about it, Fred and I were talking about the drive from Orange Beach. We drove twice. We drove from Orange Beach, Gulf Shores area, all the way over to Destin, just to drive the coastline there. It's really beautiful. And then in Pensacola, they got the naval station.
Yes.
And the
yes.
home of the
Blue Angels.
Blue Angels.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, it's a beautiful part of a country if you've never been. Most people have been, but it's really.
And if you're looking for really good beaches, you cannot beat that.
Yeah, no.
I mean, the East Coast, Myrtle Beach and area, those are very nice.
Yes.
But the water,
right,
in Destin,
right,
Navarre,
yeah,
those places, Gulf Shores.
It's like the Caribbean.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful. Just clear, clear water. It's real, and beautiful colors. Call it the Emerald Coast.
Yes.
Anyway, so back to the real world. Did anything happen while I was gone?
Nah. Ed was totally bored. We talked hockey for what?
We did.
Ed isn't bored by hockey.
No,
I'll tell you that.
I'm not. But my team's out, so I have adjusted to that reality
Right.
And I'll check my phone 2-3 times a day, see if there any trades happen, and I'll do that from now until
Right.
October. And
that's the thing with sports is there's always next year.
That's right.
Right. There's always.
It could always get better.
But there will be a Canadian team in the NHL Finals.
Yes.
For the first time in a while.
Oh,
Yeah, a long time.
a long time.
What, the Edmonton Oilers? Huh?
Yeah, are playing the Florida Panthers, and that is going to represent the furthest distance between two NHL Finals teams, I think, in league history. So you play 2 games in Florida, then you got to fly all the way to Edmonton for 2 games, and then back, and then back, and then back.
There's 3 words that don't go together,
Right.
apart from Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah.
That's what he used to say. He said, there's 2 words that don't go together. NASA and Alabama.
Right.
Anyway, I didn't say that.
Jeff Foxworthy
Jeff
did.
Foxworthy
Right,
said
blame
that.
him.
He makes fun of his own people. So,
Right.
But the 3 words that don't go together for me, really, it's hard to, is Florida and ice hockey.
Yes. And there's 2 teams.
Yeah.
2 Florida teams
Yeah,
in the
Florida.
NHL.
It just seems something doesn't seem right in the universe if a team from Florida can win the hockey championship.
And
you know,
they
may do it.
They're favored.
They may do it.
Well, half of Florida is snowbirds.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's right. All the people who move down, they big fans of hockey. So, all right, Fred, what's your well? Before we do that, Ed, how can people watch us on the internet? And we're streaming on X now too, right?
Yes. So there are a number of ways you can watch the live video stream for this program and others on American Family Radio. You can go to Facebook and search for Today's Issues. You can go to YouTube and search for Today's Issues Live. You can go to our own streaming platform, stream.afa.net. You can also go to X, formerly known as Twitter, search for American Family Radio, and then you can catch the live video feed. By the way, before we move forward, Tim, with your permission, I mentioned stream.afa.net. We have something that we want you to check out coming up this Thursday. Now, American Family Studios has produced a series of videos called AFA at Home. These are hosted by Walker Wildman. These address the cultural and spiritual issues facing America from the perspective of leading Christian voices. Here, this Thursday, June 6th, at 6 p.m. Central Time, AFA at Home Episode 5 will air. And you can watch the trailer by creating a free account at stream.afa.net. And by creating that free streaming account now, you'll have immediate access to the full episode coming up this Thursday, June 6th.
What episode is that, Ed?
This is AFA AFA at Home Episode 5.
It's a reality show.
No.
Right?
No. We will address reality, though.
Yes.
We're going to be addressing the LGBTQ plus issue from a biblical perspective without hesitation or apology. Guests include Tim Wildman, M.D. Perkins. I'll be on there. Fred Jackson will be on there. And Abraham Hamilton III. So it's kind of a conversational format. And we encourage you to go to stream.afa.net. If you don't already have an account, it is free to set up, and you'll be able to watch AFA at Home, Episode 5, this Thursday night.
All right, Fred, first story.
All right. President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, is in a courtroom this morning in Wilmington, Delaware. And it is a case that involves a purchase he made of a gun back in 2018. And at the time, according to a book that Hunter Biden wrote about his life, he was in the throes of crack addiction. Thus, he finds himself in court because in order to get a license for said gun, one of the aspects of that license is you cannot have been involved with drugs, addicted to drugs. Well, as Fox legal analyst Greg Jarrett put it this morning in an interview, the fact that Hunter Biden wrote a book around that time admitting he was in the throes of drug addiction is kind of going to play against him at this trial that he's involved with. Here's Greg Jarrett, cut number 9.
He wrote a book explaining in detail how he was a drug addict, the exact time that he bought a gun, and then allegedly lied about it. So he incriminated himself, and it was incredibly foolish to cash in by peddling a book about your addiction when you know you're under criminal investigation for an addiction-related crime.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, he wrote the book despite that. I think probably when he wrote the book, also, he figured he was going to get away with this because at some point up until last July, there was a plan to drop all the charges to a misdemeanor and that he was going to walk away from this. If he behaved himself for 2 years, then the charges would be dropped on the gun charges. However, that deal went before a judge. She happens to be Judge Mary Ellen Noreika, and who happened to be appointed by Donald Trump when he was president. She started looking at this agreement, and she read the fine print as it was, and she said, I'm not going to go along with this. If I agree to this, this guy is going to walk from any future charge because there's another big case in California involving tax evasion that's coming up. So she said, no, I'm not going to sign off on this. Then there was another special prosecutor who was appointed by the Attorney General of the United States, and he has decided now to go ahead with these charges, which include transferring that gun that Hunter Biden had across state lines, which is another federal charge. This sounds like a soap opera, I know. The other son of the president, Beau, who died back several years ago, his wife, his widow, had an affair with Hunter Biden, and she may be called in as a prosecution witness because she, according to reports, threw that gun in a dumpster somewhere. So this is going to be an interesting case. What happened this morning is the beginning of jury selection in this. And by the way, the First Lady of the United States, Jill Biden, is sitting in the courtroom as well.
Yeah, in order to legally purchase a firearm in this country, you have to fill out a federal background check.
Yes.
And it asks you questions. And one of those questions is about your relationship to illegal drugs. And that is the form on which Hunter Biden allegedly lied on. And so we will see, usually federal gun charges are pretty serious felonies.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see whether or not he gets convicted.
Yep.
And
Good.
with Jill Biden in the courtroom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, well, I mean, he is Hunter's mother. You certainly understand
He is?
her. I mean, she is Hunter Biden's stepmother.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. So you could at least excuse that and say, well, I am supporting my stepson. But to me, it looks like there's a little bit of pressure being put on the proceedings where you have the First Lady sitting in.
Yeah, and this court case is being held in Delaware, and the Biden name is pretty well known in Delaware. So he could get up to 25 years, the penalties, and each count carries a maximum fine of $250,000 and 3 years of supervised release. So pretty serious case.
Right.
I'll be watching that, see what happens there. That should take, I'm thinking that's a week, maybe 2 weeks. Is this a jury or is this a...
It's a jury.
It's a jury
Jury's
trial.
being dealt with
It's a
today.
jury trial?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we'll see what happens there. That guy's life has been a wreck.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how else to say it. He's just been, hopefully he'll find the Lord.
Right.
And get his life changed eternally. But his life so far, as what's publicly known about it, through that laptop and addictions and all these things that he's been, you know what I'm saying? It's been a mess.
Right.
So what is he? Is he 55? How old is he? 50?
Not sure.
I will look that up, sir.
Hunter Biden?
Hunter Biden.
See how old he is. Hunter Biden. I'm guessing he may be 55.
He's 54.
Okay.
You're just about spot on there.
Yeah. 54.
What do you guys think? I don't think he'll spend a day in jail. I mean, he could have up to 25 years in prison. But I don't think I don't.
Here's
I'm
what
not
I
even sure that
here's
he
what I would
convicted.
here's what I would ask about a situation like that. To your question is because you wonder what the question is: Will Hunter Biden be shown leniency and favoritism because his dad is president of the United States? That's the question everybody.
Right.
Of course, that's the rich and powerful people have the ability to hire lawyers,
Right.
and that are top tier and can get them off of what otherwise would be
Especially
more
if they're,
severe.
if they're going against a prosecutor or district attorney who's not on that level.
Yeah,
in smaller communities and stuff. like
But
that.
I would just say back to my thing on issues like that. I would say compare what sentence he is given to what the norm is.
Yeah.
If there are comparable, I'm sure
Right.
there are comparable. Okay, what do people listen? People don't go to prison hardly anymore for anything, or jail. I mean,
Not
hardly.
in big cities, they don't.
Huh?
Not in
No,
big
no,
cities.
no. So we'll see what happens here with that situation. But now, a convicted felon having a gun is a serious matter, right?
Was he a convicted felon at the time?
Well, he was on drugs.
He was on drugs.
Yes, and that's the issue.
Oh, okay. My apologies. So the charge was he's drug addicted.
confessed.
Confessed drug addiction. When you do that, you waive your right to possession of a firearm.
Yeah, on the form that you fill out,
Yeah.
the background check, you
I
have
got you.
to.
I got you.
You
I
have
got
to
you.
admit
That's the violation.
Yes.
He lied.
He lied on that
He
form.
lied on the application to get a gun, saying he was not addicted.
Right.
Had an addiction.
And that's
drug.
what Greg Jarrett is saying, because in his book he says he was on drugs.
He'll probably be. He's not going to confess to. Is he confessing to it, or he's going to fight it?
Well, he's fighting it,
Is not guilty.
but he's pleaded not guilty. But how do you get away from that when you're a confess?
He won't.
Well,
I don't think he will.
here's a strategy.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned this in our story meeting. I don't know if they were just joking.
Yeah. Well, one of the analysts was saying this morning, one of the possible defenses was that I was so high on drugs, I made a mistake
I didn't even know I was
when
lying.
I was filling out the form.
Now, how about that?
I'm sorry, that's not funny.
I
but
could
it
see. I could
sounds
see that
funny.
working.
I was so high, Your Honor.
I didn't
I
realize.
didn't even know what I was doing.
I didn't even realize I was lying on the
That's
federal
my
form.
story, and I'm sticking to it. Oh, my
Listen,
word.
that people use that kind of defense. Now, this is just something that was kicked around. Obviously, I don't know if that's going to be their
Right.
actual defense for Hunter Biden. But we've all read stories where a drunk driver kills a family or something
Right.
tragic, and they say I was not
In my right mind.
in my right mind because I was drunk.
Well,
So, you know,
yeah, I
you
know.
never know what a jury is going to decide, especially in Delaware.
Yeah. Delaware. Why Delaware? you mean because it's
That's where the
the
trial.
Bidens are from?
That's where the trial is.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, what's
Well, that's
you
where the
said
Biden's
especially
from.
in-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead. Next story, Fred.
Well, speaking of the rich and famous, they don't always get away with what they're charged with, and that is, of course, the former president found guilty on 34 charges, federal charges, in a New York court. Well, on the weekend, the former president gave his first official interview, that with Fox and Friends on the weekend, and he talked about those convictions and the deck that was stacked against him. Cut number 2.
This is your first interview since the verdict. It's been
Yeah,
48
that's true.
hours.
That's true.
Where's your head at?
Well, look, I'm fighting for the Constitution. I'm fighting for the same thing that you three. I watch you all the time, and same thing that you do. You fight for freedom. You fight for your country. These people are sick. They're sick. They're deranged. I talk about the enemy on the outside and the enemy from within. So you have Russia, you have China. But if you have a smart president, you always handle him. Quite easily, actually. We have a lot of advantages. But the enemy from within, they are doing damage to this country.
Well, he's his basically thrust when he is responding to this. He says it's really not about me; it's about you. Speaking to the public, he is saying if the Justice Department which he believes is very corrupt, can get away with this, they'll come after you as well, you being his supporters.
Well, this wasn't the Justice Department, though.
Well,
This is the state of New York.
well, he argues it all came down from the Justice Department. That's what he argued.
He's been arguing that the Biden family was behind this.
Yes, yes.
Because Alvin Bragg had gone to the White House.
Alvin Bragg had meetings at the White House at
About
times
this?
when the Attorney
But
General
yeah, nobody knows.
the Attorney General was present, and obviously Joe Biden was there. So, I mean, those are the arguments that the former president is making right now.
I think Alvin Bragg, the DA for Manhattan, would have gone after Trump whether he ever knew Joe Biden or not, because he hates Trump anyway. I'm talking about by his own words, his own admission in the past. I say hate. He said he made it a campaign issue. I was going to right. Is that right?
No, that's true. He did, and so did Letitia James.
I don't think he
the
did
Attorney
any
General.
encouragement or not from.
But that
Trump,
explains
from Biden.
why Trump has tied it to the Justice Department and the Biden administration. He thinks they're all in cahoots.
Yes.
That yes, it is true. Alvin Bragg got elected on a platform essentially of "I'll get Trump."
That was one of his issues.
Yeah, one of his issues. So, I this is why Trump is saying that all these folks are the same, and they represent a threat to the rest of us.
But Alvin Bragg initially said he wasn't going to bring this case to court.
Right.
But that's the other suspicion, that the Biden administration, the Biden Justice Department got involved. And so then Alvin Bragg changed his mind. And it also there's so much involved here, also up to federal charges. One of the things that apparently the Trump lawyers are going to use on appeal is that this judge had no jurisdiction over federal charges.
Or federal crimes.
Or federal crimes. So there's now
he has just the process itself, though, Fred. Just the next step for the Trump legal team would be to appeal this to the state Supreme Court of New York. Do you know?
I think both. I think the things that I've heard and things that I've read are that you can appeal at the same time. You can skip the federal district court level on the federal side and go right to an appellate court. So a circuit court of appeals in the federal jurisdiction. No, the federal jurisdiction. And you can appeal this in New York. And I'm not sure what the appellate process is.
So that's
in
what
the state of New York.
So you would be dual.
Yes.
Appealing both federal and to a federal court and to a
state appellate. I'm not sure if they. I'm sure they. I don't think you can go right to the New York Court of Supreme Court.
Meanwhile, he has sentencing though.
Yes, July the 11th, which is just 4 or 5 days before the convention.
Yes.
So I think that the appellate process probably will be expedited in this situation.
I think that's what you would ask for.
Yes.
That would be in the best interest of the country.
Yeah.
I think to go ahead and have the appeal heard, don't you think?
Well, the next thing also is if the judge is going to lift the gag order, because that gag order is still in place. And so Trump has reacted strongly since then, but I don't think he'll hold back at all once that gag order is released. I mean, he could.
What is he held back? I hadn't heard him hold back. Deranged, and I mean, he's been saying pretty much what he wants to.
I think where he has been particularly restricted, he wasn't allowed to say anything about the witnesses, which include Michael Cohen.
Or the jury.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it would be better for President Trump not to talk about the jury.
Right.
If he wants to talk about the witnesses or the story, that's one thing, but I wouldn't talk about the jury or dox them or anything like that. I wouldn't do that. All right, we'll take a timeout right here. We'll be back with more of today's issues after this short timeout. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus raised from the dead. There they made him a supper. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at table with him. Bethany lies on the southeastern slope of the Mount of Olives, nearly 2 miles east of Jerusalem. It was the hometown of 3 very close friends of Jesus, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. While Jerusalem gives us its view of the personality of Jesus, Bethany presents its view also. It was in this little community that Jesus came to rest when he visited Jerusalem. Following the Palm Sunday events, he brought his disciples to Bethany to spend the night. Here, away from the crowds, he could rest and fellowship with a small group of friends. It was in Bethany that Simon the leper invited Jesus to a meal. While they were eating, Mary broke a very expensive jar of perfume and poured it on the head of Jesus. The perfume could have been sold for more than $300, nearly a year's wage. It was with reckless devotion that Mary loved her Lord. Once Jesus was sitting and teaching in the home of Lazarus. They had just finished a meal, and Martha was busy cleaning the table and washing the dishes. Mary, who should have been helping Martha, had become so enraptured with the words of Christ that she forgot her duties. Martha entreated Jesus to remind Mary of her duties, but the gentle Galilean instead reminded Martha that the dishes could wait while the words of life were being spoken. Jesus was a man of deep compassion, and when told by Mary that her brother Lazarus had died, he wept from sorrow. Being shown the place where Lazarus had been buried, Jesus called him out from the grave and death. This act, incidentally, hastened the death of Jesus by the religious authorities. It was at the graveside of Lazarus that Jesus uttered words which today are spoken at nearly every Christian funeral. Speaking to a deeply grieved Martha, Jesus reminded her of his life-giving mission. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will live, even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. There is in modern Bethany a church building built on the traditional site of the home of Lazarus. It is called the Church of Lazarus. On its walls are inscribed those words of Jesus. If you visit Bethany today, you will be shown a tomb behind the Church of Lazarus. Here, supposedly, Lazarus was laid only to rise again through the love of Christ. It's a typical tomb, cut out of the rock and containing a burial chamber in which the dead lay on a slab of rock. You know, life makes demands upon us both public and private. We are called upon to express our faith to the masses and also to our friends. It is with us as it was with Christ that we gain strength from our private circle of friends to face the public masses. Whenever we are exhausted from our public duties, we can retire to our small circle of intimate friends for renewed strength. And that is what Christ did often at Bethany.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Matthew 19:14.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. If you want to send us an email, the address is comments@afr.net, comments@afr.net. AmericanFamilyRadio.net is our email address. We do podcast this show as we do all the shows here on American Family Radio. So if you miss our program and you want to go back and listen to it, it'll be our show here. Today's Issues is available an hour and a half after we finish doing it. So check out the podcast. Just go to AFR.net, click on podcast, and then any of our programs here you can go and listen to on demand through the podcast. So Tim, Ed, and Fred here, we thank you for listening to American Family Radio on this Monday, June. I failed to mention this. People don't even know what day it is because they depend on me to tell
That's
them.
right.
Huh? And I was out for a week, and you forget to do these things. Monday, June the 3rd, 2024. It's hard to believe it's already June.
That's right.
Really is hard to believe it's already June. So
close to halfway through 2024.
Yeah.
And it's only going to speed up as we get closer to the election.
Reason I like June is because you have long days. And as someone who enjoys golfing and just swimming and the outdoors, right. I love 8:30 for nighttime.
Right up to June 21st.
Huh?
And then the days get shorter.
Oh, that's right. Is that the longest day of the year?
June 21st.
Official day of summer.
Yes.
I bet in Nova Scotia, where you're from, Fred, it stays light till 10 probably.
Because you're further north. You know, we were talking about Edmonton.
Yeah.
Being in, I did, when I was doing pilot training, I did land survival in late May, early June. And we were
This is for the Canadian Air Force.
Canadian Air Force. And we were based for a short time up in Edmonton. And no kidding, getting up at 5 in the morning, and we were in barracks that didn't have any windows.
Yeah.
You go outside at 5 in the morning, and you're hit with sunshine.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing that time of the year. Of course.
Well, then that would mean there's only, 5 or 6 hours of darkness?
Yeah. It's just.
If that much?
I remember coming home. We'd go to a restaurant in town, and we come at 11 o'clock at night, and you could still see some brightness on the horizon. That's how short it is. And then 5 o'clock in the morning, bright sunshine.
So when the sun finally did go down,
yes,
and it was nighttime, you would say, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." So you,
no, I think he would say, "Don't let the sun go down on me."
Yes.
It is really strange.
Yeah,
and now I feel compelled to sing that song, Simon and Garfunkel's song. No, I won't do that to you, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Fred, what's your next story there?
Well, from that to something serious, June is Gay Pride Month.
Really?
And we need to be praying for federal employees especially because they get this month imposed on them. Various federal departments. Todd Starnes put something out this morning. He had a report that in one VA facility in Florida, I think he said it was, they took down the American flag and put up the pride flag inside this VA facility. This is the kind of junk that our and particularly our military people.
Force-fed.
Oh, man.
Huh? Yeah, gay. Is it called Gay and Lesbian Pride Month?
I think it's just called Pride Month.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's called LGBTQ Pride. I do want to make mention of the fact, if I can just kind of jump on this particular issue. Folks, most of you probably know, but American Family Association has what we call action alerts, where we try to engage our supporters, get them active, and we have a new one out. You can go to afa.net. It is front and center there. And this action alert is a petition to Walmart CEO Doug McMillon because Walmart has gone all out, so to speak, for Pride Month.
How so?
Well, Walmart here over Memorial Day weekend. Now, Randy Sharp, who's director of our special projects, said that he checked Walmart's social media all weekend long. And on Memorial Day weekend, they had nothing about Memorial Day and the reason for it, or the reason for that awareness all weekend long. But they did have several ads on social media promoting quote-unquote quote unquote gay pride merchandise online. Randy also said last year AFA complained to Walmart for the store displays. So if you go to afa.net, click on the action alert, we are asking people to sign a petition to the CEO of Walmart and to ask them not to have all this merchandise online or especially in their stores for Pride Month.
Why do you care? Why do we care whether they have Pride Month or not?
Well, because we ask that corporations simply remain neutral on these culture war activities. We ask them to not take sides and to not promote what from a Christian perspective is an immoral lifestyle. Because children, Target got in trouble with this last summer.
Right.
Children go into these stores, they see all that. It is confusing for kids, and it makes them think that this is a legitimate lifestyle before Almighty God, and it is, and it's not. So we ask people to take a stand and to let companies like Walmart know that we just want them to be neutral and not promote this lifestyle. So AFA.net, we're asking you to sign the petition for this.
Yeah, I was mentioning about our military people in particular. And there's a story, I think, Tim, you may have sent this out on the weekend, dailymail.co.uk. And the headline is, Navy SEALs are accused of going woke after Pride post sparks backlash. And basically the post on the official page of the Naval Special Warfare Command, where they outlined their values. Well, they've apparently changed it. And in this story, the dignity, service, respect, equality, pride is their qualities, but it's all in rainbow colors. They've changed it for this month in rainbow colors. This is just an example of what's being imposed on our military. Pete Hegseth is one of the co-hosts on Fox and Friends. He is ex-military, retired from the military, but he says the military has been totally corrupted with wokeness. Cut number 7.
Where it found the best and the brightest who were able to exact the most lethality on the enemy with the most latitude possible to win wars. So we're going to insert things like CRT and DEI, like women in combat. We're going to weaponize LGBT issues. China's building a military specifically designed to defeat us, and our defense industry, because of our generals who've given into ideologues, is focused on climate change.
Yeah, that's our military today. And then Hegseth told a very disturbing story. He says during the inauguration of President Biden, he at the time was part of the D.C. National Guard Reserve. And he was supposed to be part of the security detail. But apparently Pete Hegseth has a Christian tattoo on his shoulder. And he was told, no, you're rejected by this detail. Basically describing him because he has this Christian tattoo, I think it was a cross, that he was basically considered an extremist, a danger, and you couldn't be part of it. Here's Pete Hegseth explaining this, cut number 8.
I was in the National Guard during the inauguration of Joe Biden. So I'd served under Bush, served under Obama, served under Trump, and now was going to guard the inauguration because I was in the D.C. Guard. And it's a long story. You can get it all in chapter 6 of this book. But ultimately, members of my unit in leadership deemed that I was an extremist or a white nationalist because of a tattoo I have, which is a religious tattoo. It's a Jerusalem cross. Everybody can look it up. But it was used as a premise to revoke my orders to guard the inauguration.
Was it really about a tattoo?
Well, that's exactly right. Was it because I'm a Trump supporter? Was it because I'm a, patriot extremist, which is another label they use? Maybe it's because I work at Fox News.
A patriot extremist, which is apparently a phrase that's being used now, if you're a patriot.
Well, and you wonder why the U.S. military is having a hard time recruiting,
right?
In their recruiting numbers, which are way down. Mm-hmm. That's been except for maybe one branch. I don't know. I remember we've all seen these numbers,
right?
Yes,
and there's multiple reasons for that, but among the chief ones is this woke garbage, that's being pushed down the throats of our servicemen and women. And combine that with the fact that a large percentage of these military personnel and potential recruits are from conservative families.
Yep.
Who have
They're military families.
Generational. So and that's stopping. That's stopping. Now, here's the thing: why this is so insidious. This you combine that with the way they were kicked out over the COVID vaccine.
Yes.
That's another reason the numbers are way down.
Right.
Then that's gonna show up on the battlefield, so to speak, and literally sometime down the future. I'm afraid. You know what I'm saying? Now,
the fear is we will lose a major war.
I think warfare today is fought more and more with technology and smart bombs and all these things. I mean, but you see, like in Ukraine and other places, you do have to have on the ground forces to fight.
You got to have boots on the ground if you want to hold and keep land. I would also add to the things that I think the very real reasons you're talking about, Tim. I would say that the generation that is youngest, that is of military age, they have, for the most part, come through schooling that is not taught patriotism, that has taught that our nation is illegitimate, and when people do not feel like their country is important or legitimate, why would they defend it with their lives? And so a lot of them are not signing up. I think I have read that. I don't know what the percentages are for, this reason is this percentage, this reason is that percentage. But I would have to say that is a very dire situation and trend. Young people coming out of schooling and going, I hate this country. I'm not defending it.
Back to the original story here, though, there are a lot. The story which we have posted on our Today's Issues Facebook page, which I saw in the Daily Mail last night, is about former United States Navy SEALs speaking out against the, head honchos. Is that for public? I guess that's slang, but of the military who oversee the Navy SEALs, and they're forcing this LGBT pride stuff on the Navy SEALs currently, right?
Yep. And it's happening right across the federal government. I know we've done stories in the past where during this month, some staff members in various federal departments are forced to go to seminars to sensitize them, as they say, into accepting basically the homosexual.
Taught to go woke.
Yeah, taught to go woke and not to criticize, being intimidated. Don't you dare say a word negative about Gay Pride Month. So all of this is happening. That's why, as I say, federal employees need.
Yeah, I think the average person out there, not necessarily religious conservatives like we are and most of our listeners are, but I just think the average person out there is getting tired of this.
Oh yeah.
Because how much pride does a group need? I mean, yay.
Yeah.
Do we need to every year for a month? We have to clap because somebody says I'm gay?
Yeah.
I'm lesbian.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I'm clapping for you because you're
need, so brave.
You need affirmation.
Right.
Yeah. We have 1 day for Memorial Day. They get a month.
Right.
Well, we have 1 day for every major national holiday.
But they get a month.
Yeah. So
it's just
and it'd be one thing if it was just a month that they celebrated as a community, but everybody celebrates it. Walmart.
Yeah.
Who would have thought this 10, 15 years ago? So all the corporations celebrate it. You got this Biden administration celebrating it.
Allison and I, my wife, we enjoy some of the shows on HGTV. I know I just turned in my man card.
No. I know where you're going with this.
Okay. But last night she said, I don't think we're going to be able to watch in June. I said, why? She said, I've watched today and every single show is about gays.
Yeah.
Gays and lesbians, remodeling, renting house. It's Pride Month on HG. And I'm going like, yes, because it's just like, why does that matter? On buying a house or remodeling our house or doing something related.
Because they're teaching the ignorant masses, Tim, that two men are no different than a man and a woman who are married. That's what they're teaching.
Yeah, but otherwise you would just watch a show and you go, why do you have to make a point? I know what you're saying is true. But why do you feel like you have to make a point of somebody's sexuality in a show that has nothing to do with that? You know,
because they are making
shows that have.
They're adding to their woke bank account.
Yeah.
Guess what we did all month in June?
Huh?
Listen, I'm with you and Allison.
Yay.
Yeah.
You're gay.
Yeah.
We're supposed to clap all month.
Well, I'm not.
No.
You've clapped twice on the
program. I have
program.
clapped twice. So I just really. Most. Anyway, go ahead, Fred.
Well, isn't that why Candace Cameron Bure, she quit HDTV?
No, I think she quit the Hallmark channel.
Was it Hallmark because of this wokeness?
Yeah.
And she's on some other channel now. She does movies somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh, it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. You can't escape it hardly anywhere.
I will say to what you said earlier, to your point, I do think the average person gets tired of it. I know there was a dust up. I'm not trying to drive the conversation back to the NHL, but this past year when the Philadelphia Flyers, this might have been last year, I don't remember. Philadelphia Flyers said we're not doing Pride Night because they had several Christian hockey players who were from Europe. I was embarrassed for the United States-born hockey players who said we're not wearing the rainbow uniforms during warm-up. And so the Philadelphia team said, well, to avoid having a big thing, we're just not going to have Pride Night. And when I would read articles about this, the first couple of comments would be criticisms of the Flyers, the Philadelphia team, for doing this. But then the flood started. And because of the language these people were using, I don't think there were many Christians in it. But they said, I don't care what someone does in the privacy of their own home. I don't want it shoved in my face.
That's what most Americans think, I believe.
And I think
what
that's
you just described.
Growing. Yes.
Yeah, they're fed up with it. But also a growing concern about how our little kids.
Yes.
Elementary school.
Right.
Mid-school.
Right.
It's being imposed on them.
Yes. And the transgender movement has sparked a lot of this, what we're talking about, towards the whole Pride Month thing, because that's exactly what you're exactly right, Fred. Most people are fair-minded. They don't want homosexual teenagers thrown into lockers or given swirlies in the boys' bathroom. They're opposed to that, and rightly so.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they don't want little kids being told, you know what, little girl, you might be a boy.
Yeah.
Maybe you should try dressing like one. That's where people draw the line, and they lump that transgender movement in with all the other letters in the LGBTQ pride push, and that, I think, has undercut their momentum.
Next story, Fred.
Story out of New York City this morning.
New York City?
New York City. 2 police officers wounded. A guy who has been identified because this suspect now has been wounded, but already being reported. Guess what? He is from Venezuela. He entered this country illegally.
Oh, you're going to see a lot more of that.
Yes. However, that to introduce this next story, tomorrow, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, is going to issue an executive order. He says he has to do this because he can't get Republicans to cooperate with him on securing the southern border. So he says he has to take executive action. But here's the executive action he's apparently going to sign into as an order tomorrow. He's going to say, we're only going to allow 4,000 a day into the country. We're going to keep it down to 4,000 a day. Now that's the policy.
Is he really going to use that number?
Yes, 4,000 a day maximum.
Or what? Or what? Is he going to say what happens if you go 4,001?
No. Oh no.
This is all window dressing.
This
Nothing's
is all,
going to
right
stop.
for the election.
It's for the election because
Election interference.
after the economy, border security in all these polling is showing this a big concern amongst people. But they're going to try to turn it around and saying, oh, the president's being forced to do something all on his own. No, the president did something all on his own. The first days in office, he stopped everything that the former President Trump was doing to secure our southern border.
Yeah, and this is why the tactic for the Biden administration, as the news continued of the border catastrophe, to erode support for President Biden, because this is up so high on the list of what's important to people. That's why their first tactic was to blame Republicans. Oh, none of this would have happened if Republicans had just given us the money we had asked for. And so now they will continue that argument while they say, well, the president is doing everything he can to deal with this problem.
Well, in conjunction with this story, and Tim, I think you sent this out over the weekend, over 350,000 illegals have had their immigration court cases dismissed, allowing them to go free without a verdict on the merits of their entry. And the reason apparently is, well, we can't find any record that they've ever committed any violent crimes, so let's just let them go.
Wasn't that one federal judge?
Yes. It's a top immigration custom enforcement advisor, Kerry Doyle.
No, not a judge, but
circulated a memo in 2022 instructing prosecutors to dismiss cases for illegals who are not found to be national security threats. That, according to a New York Post story.
Yeah.
Just let them go.
I'll just be blunt here. If America wants to continue to be flooded with illegals from around the world, which will eventually collapse our system, then vote for Joe Biden in November. If that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have law and order at the border of the United States, if that matters to you, then you have to vote for Trump in November.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that's going to stop this, because now, I'm not Democrat, Republican in the issue here, although I could. I'm just talking about the actions of the president of the United States, which is the CEO of our country, which has authority over our borders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Biden, despite this malarkey, to borrow from him, that they're trying to promote now, what he's going to, whatever this executive order is. All that is for to try to limit the damage of his open border policy over the last 3.5 years, so it doesn't affect him as much in November. So he can say to the people out there, listen, I tried to do something about the border. The Republicans wouldn't work with me, so now I'm doing it myself. My whole question would be, if you didn't need the Republicans to work with you, why didn't you do it yourself earlier?
Yeah.
So that is I know we call balls and strikes.
Right.
As I see them here, and I know you guys do too. Sometimes when I have to call strikes on Republicans, it makes people upset. But you have to call balls and strikes the way you see them. And I'm just telling you, if Biden wins, you can forget. You talk about open borders. There will be no borders.
That's right.
There will be no. There almost isn't now, but there'll be nothing.
Yep.
So if that's what America wants, then Biden's your man.
You can get it.
Biden's your man.
You can have that
If
reality.
that matters to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know there are multiple issues to consider in elections, but you can't control your borders. That has to be near the top, seems to me. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
In Psalm 139, David writes that God formed his inward parts, that he was knit together in his mother's womb. He was fearfully and wonderfully made. What was true of David is surely true of you and me. In fact, it's true of every man and woman, every boy and girl, and every baby born and unborn. A thought from American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Jury selection for Hunter Biden's federal gun trial gets underway today in Delaware. Rich Edson is in Wilmington with the latest.
The First Lady, Jill Biden, also arrived here on her 73rd birthday. President Biden has kept his son close over the weekend. The two went bike riding near Rehoboth Beach. The president is expected to speak with Hunter daily during this trial, about 2 to 3 times more than usual, according to the New York Times. Now, Judge Mary Ellen Noreika instructed potential jurors not to search this case on the internet. They got to take their phones out of the courtroom, all those types of things. There are around 250 potential jurors. The court will narrow them down to 12 plus the alternates. They'll also face questions about what they've heard about this trial, their thoughts on the president and the Bidens.
Fox News legal consultant Greg Jarrett says the best evidence against Hunter Biden is Hunter Biden himself.
I mean, he wrote a book explaining in detail how he was a drug addict, the exact time that he bought a gun, and then allegedly lied about it. So he incriminated himself, and it was incredibly foolish to cash in by peddling a book about your addiction when you know you're under criminal investigation for an addiction-related crime.
Anthony Fauci is being grilled by a House subcommittee about his actions during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Committee Chairman Brad Wenstrup of Ohio, who also happens to be a doctor, criticized Fauci for his lack of honesty that cost Americans dearly.
While policy decisions should have been based on scientific data, some frankly were not. The burdensome 6-foot social distancing rule did not have sufficient scientific report. In your words, it just sort of appeared. Dr. Fauci, under your leadership, the United States health agencies adopted specific policy aims as a single dogmatic truth, without the benefit of debate, out of a desire for a single narrative. Any dissent from your chosen scientific position was immediately labeled as anti-science. Anything less than complete submission to the mandates could cost you your livelihood, your ability to go into public, your child's ability to attend school. Families were thrown off planes and shamed when their 2-year-olds struggled to wear a mask. Americans do not hate science, but Americans know hypocrisy when they see it.
The White House is expected to announce executive actions related to the southern border this week. Jillian Turner has more details on what we can expect from the announcement.
The White House has been teasing executive action on the U.S. southern border for months now. It is looking like something is about to happen imminently. The president, being reported by the Associated Press, is going to make an announcement before he departs for Europe. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says no matter what Biden does now, it's going to be too little too late. The details of the big announcement are under wraps for now, but the AP reports the White House plans to shut off asylum requests and automatically deny entry to migrants each day on a daily basis once the number of people encountered by border officials reaches a set cap number.
An administrator at a Northwest university believes that segregation will promote better race relations.
The University of Washington has a plan to set aside one residence hall floor specifically for black students while claiming it doesn't amount to segregation. According to Associate Editor of the College Fix, Matt Lamb, it is absolutely segregation.
The black housing only absolutely is segregation. It fits the definition of segregation. It's only allowing certain races to live in a certain place or to eat in a certain place.
Lamb says this is just another form of DEI, the brainchild of the head of UW's Ethnic Cultural Center, Magdalena Fonseca. He presumes her idea is probably illegal.
And frankly, it probably violates racial discrimination laws because you cannot prevent students from living in a dorm room. And so I think the university is just creating more problems. Even if it withstands legal complaint, they're just creating more division.
I'm Bob Kellogg.
More news online at afn.net. I'm Rusty P.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Welcome back to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, on this Monday, June the 3rd, with Steve Paisley Jordahl. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, everybody.
Got your summer Paisley rocking over there.
I got the summer Paisley going on, yeah. A little
Summer
short
Paisley.
sleeve action, but yeah.
Yeah, all
Paisley
right.
nonetheless.
So it's Paisley Pride Month here, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, yes, it's the only kind of pride we really do care about.
If you can't
Paisley
have pride,
pride.
Paisley, you can't have pride. I mean, in yourself.
That's right.
All right, a lot to talk about with Steve. What's the first story, Steve?
Well, I tell you, right now there's a hearing going on in Washington, D.C. This is a House hearing, and they've got Dr. Anthony Fauci on the hot seat. And he's being brought in because he has admitted in the past couple days that basically he made up some of the COVID rules, including 6-foot social distancing, masking, all this kind of stuff. And they do. I was going to bring in some audio if anything interesting happened in this hearing, and it was all a little bit sedate and in the weeds to the beginning, although they did get into it to say that the COVID vaccine was never really that effective. But
Who said that?
Dr. Fauci under questioning. So
it was effective, all right.
Yeah,
he actually admitted that.
He said he was asked by the by the chairman of the committee about whether or not the vaccine was ever 100% effective at denying or healing the vaccine is preventing COVID.
The spread.
The spread of COVID. He said, Fauci said, which is true, no vaccine is 100% effective. But we learned a lot as we went on that this is less effective than we thought it was at the beginning. Anyway, but what's going on now? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Georgia Congresswoman, is taking on Dr. Fauci, and let's say it's the same thing as Rand Paul on the Senate side with a little less decorum and intelligence. I'm just saying. She one of the things she just said, and it's just happening now, so I don't have the sound, but she just said, "I have a question for you, Mr. Fauci, and I'm calling you Mr. Fauci because in my book you're not a doctor, Mr. Fauci." To which Ranking Member Rankin, Democrat, said, "Are we allowed to deny that a doctor has a doctorate degree just because we don't want him to be a doctor?" Anyway, a lot of interesting stuff.
Sounds like interesting spat going on in the
spat.
sandbox.
Boy, is there. So
Yeah,
that's going
You know,
on.
I like her. I like her fire, Marjorie Taylor Greene. But sometimes when I do like a little decorum. Maybe I'm old fashioned, but I don't want to see us getting the British parliamentarians shouting at each other and calling each other vile names and being unnecessarily disrespectful. I think you know what I'm saying. He's Dr. Anthony Fauci, and just call him that, and then go into your questions.
Yeah,
you start out by I call it unnecessary provocation. Then it's you're going to deteriorate the seriousness of the matter. That's the way I see it.
But Dr. Fauci looks less than happy on the television.
Oh,
right
by the
now.
way, Dr. Anthony Fauci, isn't he retired?
Yes.
Yes.
What's he doing up there?
Well,
because he was
retired.
in charge.
He wasn't retired during the COVID pandemic.
But can't he just say, "I'm retired, fellas. I'm not coming to your
Not
committee"?
if you're subpoenaed.
No.
Okay, it's a subpoena.
Now I don't know if he was subpoenaed, but they can. If he refused and said, "Now I'm retired, I'm kicking back," they could say, "Well, we'll just issue a subpoena."
Yeah, they want him to answer for
Maybe he just agreed to an invitation to come and be interviewed.
I think
That's probably what happened.
I think so.
Probably.
He knows he's going to have to address these issues. But now, to me, one of the critical aspects about this is that Dr. Fauci has said that the masks and the standing 6 feet apart were ineffective, right, in preventing the spread?
Well, not only that they were ineffective, but basically he reveals that he made up the 6-foot social distancing rule and other measures to, quote, protect Americans from COVID. I'm reading for the Daily Mail. You might have sent this around, Tim, if you did. But he is basically saying we just kind of pulled a number out of the hat.
This is stunning to me because just about every government restriction that we saw during COVID was based on what he was saying. I mean, remember they were banning church services because people would sing. You couldn't sing. You couldn't praise and worship.
I remember that.
Because you would be
stand there
singing,
as long as
and the germs, the virus would go inside, 6 feet and would infect somebody else. Schools were closed down because you couldn't move kids 6 feet apart. He just made this up. And it shut down our country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's kind of happening here, this is the House Oversight Committee. This is the committee that's grilling him today. But they put out a press release. They had a hearing last week, and they had a Dr. Morens, Morens. He is one of the chief of staff, I believe, at the Institute.
National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases.
Yes, that one. And he says he admitted to kind of going covert when it comes. He wanted to avoid Freedom of Information Act requests. So
future. He was looking ahead. What we're talking about here, folks, just in case you missed it, we're related to the story about Dr. Anthony Fauci. There was a story last week reported, didn't get a lot of news coverage, wherein there was a fella who's a top aide for Anthony Fauci at the time during COVID. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What is his name?
Dr. Morens.
Okay, that's his name.
Yeah.
And it's been discovered
David.
through Freedom of Information Act access to his emails.
Yeah.
That he was intentionally trying to hide communications between Anthony Fauci and others in the in his field during the COVID response, so that they couldn't be held accountable for what they were saying and doing. Is that true?
That's
okay. That's what we're talking about here.
But I hadn't gotten there.
Well, I'm glad to scoop you.
No, that's fine. You said it probably a little cleaner and more.
I like to talk to people like the third graders sometimes, because that's the way I like it explained to me. You know what I'm saying?
Especially when it deals with science.
And here's some of the things they did. They used private email. They used non-official email to discuss certain business and everything.
I heard they used Hillary Clinton's email server.
Couldn't have, because that one was crushed under a hammer. I think they took a hammer to that one.
I got to do a bada boom. They had right there a bada boom. You know what? I will be interesting to see what the highlights are or lowlights of the testimony by Dr. Anthony Fauci today.
Yep.
Let me just say this though, and this is just me talking here. Okay.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. Okay. I'm just me talking here. I don't have now the arbitrary 6 foot distancing thing. You might criticize that, because of its arbitrary nature. But I don't want to be around sick people. I don't mind staying 6 feet apart from somebody who has COVID or potentially has COVID. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem. I think that would have been, well, maybe it was better as a recommendation on a communicable airborne disease. Does that make sense?
I understand.
You want me sitting by you if I have one?
But
you did. I'm actually sat by me. Apparently,
I understand. Listen, I feel you, Tim, because I'm a germaphobe. Okay. All right. I have hand sanitizer at my desk here. I have hand sanitizer around the house. I wash my hands a lot. I don't like germs. So it's my choice. If you're sneezing a lot or Steve's sneezing a lot or something like that, for me to keep my distance. If you are going to, on the basis of that arbitrary number, which doesn't work, you're going to shut down schools, you're going to shut down businesses, you're going to
yeah, but they didn't say it wasn't going to work. They said it was going to slow it down. This is me. I think the idea. I'm acting like I'm defending Anthony Fauci.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
That they said it was just going to slow it down.
Yeah. Nobody.
It wasn't 6 or 3 days to slow the spread. It was to stop the spread. Who are you?
No,
what have
wasn't.
you done with the president of this ministry?
There was no stopping COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
And what the 2 weeks to slow the curve was not to prevent COVID from going through the population. I don't remember anybody arguing that point. It was to slow the curve, stop the curve. I think in retrospect now you go, what Anthony Fauci should have said at the time was, now I'm not getting into any kind of conspiratorial working with Bill Gates to control the population,
right?
All this stuff. I'm just talking about straight up as he was basically a bureaucrat that nobody had ever heard of till COVID came along. I think if he had been honest at the time, just straightforward, he would have told the American public, nothing's going to stop this. And maybe, I don't know I can't remember everything he said. Nothing's going to stop this. 6 feet distancing, wearing a mask, it's going to run its course, just like the flu does.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing, but I think if you're going to say stay 6 feet away, I think the idea would be if people say distance from somebody who is sick, the less likely they are to get it. I mean, is that logical?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, yes, it is. It is logical. And just like I said, I am prone, if I hear somebody's sick, to go sit on the other side of the room.
Okay, well,
okay, but that is my choice. We all know that listen, I know somebody who lost their job because they would not wear 2 masks outside, okay, because they couldn't work inside because they would be within 6 feet of each other. So they had to work outside. And this person was told, you wear 2 masks or you lose your job. And the reason that this business said you wear 2 masks is the government told us that's what we need to do to slow or stop. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that churches were shut down, worship was shut down. All these changes were forced upon the American people because the government said.
Yep, it was forced on people more or less in blue states. The red states started opening up pretty quick when red state governors figured out what was going on here, and how that the COVID vaccine was ineffective at stopping the spread or stopping you from getting COVID.
Right.
That's when they should have ditched the whole vaccine push.
There's several things that are going on here, I think, that are not mutually exclusive, but we're kind of conflating into one. Okay, Dr. Anthony Fauci, bureaucrat, administrator, probably was circumspect in the way he said things. They technically might have not said.
You mean back during COVID?
Back during COVID.
Today.
But here's what people remember. People remember the media saying, if you don't wear a mask, you deserve to die. I mean, literally, one of the late night comics said, Okay, so if the hospitals are getting overcrowded, we're not sure how to triage people. Well, here's how you triage people. You got the vaccine, come on in, we'll treat you. Not die.
Oh, I totally agree.
And
Totally agree.
all of that
Yeah.
stuff, the way that people were canceled, if they
yeah.
dared mention
Shameful.
other than the narrative. I don't know that came necessarily from Dr. Fauci himself, but he certainly didn't push back against that, and he was part of the effort to make sure that only one narrative. I mean, we took heat for saying hydroxychloroquine or
ivermectin.
Ivermectin. We said all that stuff, and we got canceled for it. So there's a lot of stuff that went on that people are laying at the feet of Dr. Fauci, and he probably could have done more to refute or to say, wait a minute, here's the truth. But he didn't. Right. He didn't. He stood up behind the narrative.
Well, one of the most shameful aspects of the whole response here from the medical scientific community, including Dr. Fauci, at least best I remember, was this idea that the experimental COVID vaccine would be mandatory for people.
Right.
And if not, you lose your job, or you get kicked out of the military or whatever. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was like
nurses.
This is completely and totally un-American. Completely goes, huh? If you want to get especially after it was determined, as I've said earlier, to repeat myself, it was determined that the COVID vaccine shot, it's not a vaccine in the tradition.
Right.
It's not a vaccine in the traditional sense. They use that word to make people buy into it. That the COVID vaccine shot was prevented you from getting COVID, which it did not,
right,
or from spreading COVID, which it did not. And then they were reduced to it keeps you from getting sicker than you would otherwise,
right, which is hard to prove.
Yeah, hard. It's a hard to prove thing.
And now we're finding out.
But my thing was here. Let me just finish. My thing was, if you want to take that shot, you go for it. Okay, you go for it. But if I don't want to take it, you shouldn't be told me you can't have a job.
Right.
That was the un-American shame of it all. In my
right.
Yeah.
The other thing I think worth mentioning here, we can move on, but
no, I want to keep on.
We'll do that
with this.
The other thing we're mentioning here is that the COVID vaccine has turned out, we're finding out now with research, to be deadly in many instances. How deadly and how much did it help as opposed to how many it killed, we don't know.
But now Fauci, I saw coming up on some of the feeds here during our show, his argument is that the vaccine saved many, many lives. So that's going to be his response, although
it's unprovable.
And I don't know how to say that, but
it's all unprovable.
Here's what you can prove. And I've talked to several doctors who have confirmed this. Any other vaccine for any other disease, if it had 1/20th or less of or more of the side effects that the COVID vaccine had, would have been pulled in a heartbeat.
And it was some of these kinds of vaccines, not the American versions, were pulled in Europe for like people under 30.
Right.
Because they were particularly susceptible, it seems like, to myocarditis and some other side effects.
You know, the minute Dr. Anthony Fauci lost the respect of a lot of Americans, I don't know what the percentage was is when he, within 2 or 3 weeks of COVID hitting American shores, or maybe even prior to it, he said you can use masks, but they don't work.
Yeah.
Remember that?
It might make you feel better, but
it might make you feel better, but they're not going to stop this disease.
Right.
And then
he flipped.
He did.
Yes.
Then he flipped to wear a mask, right? And you're going like, that's two contradictory statements.
Right.
Okay. So which one is true, Anthony Fauci? Because if we can't believe you on something as fundamental as of how COVID would spread or not with respect to masks, I mean, you say something like may make you feel better. To me, that was the truth.
Right.
The first thing he said.
Yes.
Because he's not, before that, he wasn't part of a population control global cabal to, you know what I'm saying,
right,
to Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
From Austin Powers. He was just a bureaucrat doing his routine. Nobody ever even heard of him.
Yeah.
Then he comes along, he says what what would be a correct answer that this
But the virus was too small to be stopped by
a mask.
People don't wear the masks right.
Anyway,
They
Americans
touch
didn't
their
know how to wear a
faces.
mask.
Right.
If the mask is fogging up your glasses, it's
Yes.
a very good chance that
I know. I still see occasionally people wearing the mask. Occasionally, we all see them out, and half of them got them below their nose.
Yes.
And you're going like, what?
But we
What
were
are you
all
doing?
told, follow the science. This is what this whole debate was about. The scientific community says this, and you got all these ignoramuses over here who don't follow the science. Well, you know what? We were trying to follow the science, but the science was being represented by Dr. Anthony Fauci, who kept contradicting himself.
Contradicted him. Oh, something so fundamental as what do you call COVID? You call it a respiratory?
It's a virus.
A virus, a respiratory virus? Is that?
Yeah, I think in its initial stage.
In other words,
it
the
was
particles
respiratory.
are so small,
Right.
they can't be stopped by a mask.
Yes.
Right.
The mask that we all had access to.
Yes,
Yeah, the little blue
N95
thing.
would
give you better protection.
Would give you better protection, but the masks that we were all wearing and that I was stashing in the little compartment between the seats and pulling it out for 6 months, okay? That mask,
show mask.
that's only good in a sterile environment like a hospital.
The whole thing was ridiculous anyway. The response, it should have been
So
handled much better. And with the vaccine, they just should have said, listen, we got this available. It hasn't, it's experimental. It's rushed through in the hopes of saving people's lives. Take it if you want to.
Yeah.
That's the way that should have been.
And even say we recommend that you take it.
We recommend that you take it, but we're not going to force you to take. We're not going to or try to publicly shame people who don't want to take an experimental vaccine drug.
Man, people in churches, in families, got in big arguments with each other over the masks, over the vaccine shot.
I remember one. You're right. I remember one of our extended family, like out extended.
Yeah.
Told another member of our family. So said, "You're going to get the vaccine shot?" No, don't think I'm not going to do that. Oh, so you know better than the experts.
Yes.
You remember that? And that's
Right.
Remember people were like you said, families were dividing over whether or not to. But anyway, go ahead, Steve. We got a minute and two. We got a couple minutes left. Are you any happy news out there?
No.
Ask Don McLean.
We had something funny from last week. Neither you and I could remember. We had something that you had strung together that was some kind of funny thing.
I'll have to look. You might bring that in tomorrow.
Yeah.
But as long as we have just a couple minutes, why don't we take a look at our favorite news site here and find out what the world is talking about. And, of course, this is the Babylon Bee, where you get nothing but truth. And their headline today is that Trump has been sentenced to 4 years of confinement in a small Oval Room in Washington, D.C.
Babylon Bee, for those who don't know, is a satirical website.
Yes, it is.
So you got your 10% out there, and we all know them. They're literalist.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
They're gonna send me an email today. I can't believe you are saying that Trump's going to be sentenced to the White House.
I also liked the Babylon Bee from, I guess this was from Friday, maybe Saturday. It says Banana Republic. This is after the Trump verdict.
Right.
Banana Republic's starting to feel kind of bad for the United States.
You're giving us a bad name.
The poor United States. We thought we had it bad. Of course, we're talking, folks, about the political, clearly
jailing
political,
your political
Babylon
opponent.
Bee should pay us as much as we promote.
I know,
them.
right?
I know.
They're comedic geniuses there.
All I know, folks, is we had something really funny last Thursday, and we didn't have time for it. And Steve and I are going to put our memories together and remember what it was.
That's
but it
right.
was funny.
That's right. We'll do that.
You know, if you take the COVID vaccine, it'll increase your memory.
Is that what it does?
Yeah, that's what they're saying now. Huh? All right, we'll be back tomorrow. We hope you have a great Monday, and keep listening to American Family Radio.